I want to speak English fluently. That is what we commonly hear from English learners. That is the goal, to speak English fluently. But how? Simple. To speak English fluently, one must have a good command of the English language. And how is that possible? To have a good command of the English language, you must have a thorough understanding of how verbs are formed. Verbs are very important in the English language as they play a major role in the formation of sentences. Without verbs, there are no complete sentences. The following are sample verbs: describe, spoken, discover, write, listen, came, smell, and many more. Alright, now these verbs are formed with the help of the four principal parts of verbs. And that's what we are going to talk about in today's lesson. Hi there, welcome back to the English Wiki Studio. In today's video, you are going to learn the four principal parts of verbs. The four principal parts of verbs are very important in the English language as they help form the 12 tenses. With the helping verbs and principal parts combined, the 12 tenses of verbs are formed. The four principal parts of verbs are present, present participle, past, and past participle. Let's have it in tabular form. Present, present participle, past, and past participle. Let's say we have the verb travel. The present form of travel is traveled. It's the same. Present participle is traveling. Travel plus ing. That's traveling. Past is traveled, and past participle is still traveled. Now the tenses are formed by combining again helping verbs and principal parts. These four principal parts, any of them. Alright, now let's say for example, we have the verb, okay, the past participle form of travel, that's traveled, and we add the helping verb has. Traveled alone is just past participle. Adding the word has makes the present perfect tense of the verb travel. The present perfect tense of the verb travel is has traveled. Okay. Now let's discuss each of these principal parts one by one. The first principal part is the present. The present helps form the present tense and the future tense. The present is the same as the base verb. There are no changes. Now the present tense. To form the present tense of verbs, we simply have to add s or es to the base verbs. But that only applies to singular verbs. How about the plural verbs? To form the plural verbs, we simply have to copy or write down the base verb. There is no need to add s or es to the original verb. When do we use singular verb and when do we use plural verb? It is in the rule of subject-verb agreement that when there is a singular subject, there should also be a singular verb. Let's say, for example, this sentence. Henry Travel, travels abroad. Since Henry is the subject and since Henry is singular, we use the verb travels instead of travel. Henry travels abroad. Let's add one more person in the subject, Elizabeth. Henry and Elizabeth travels abroad. Since Henry and Elizabeth are referring to two people, that means plural subject, we also have to take a plural verb. Henry and Elizabeth travel abroad. That's right. Okay, now the future tense. To form the future tense of the verb, we simply have to add will or shall before the base verb. So, for the word travel, we add will and then the base verb travel. The future tense of the word travel is will travel. Or shall plus travel is shall travel. But will is more commonly used in the English grammar. Let's have the second part, or the second principal part. The present participle. The present participle has the ing form. So, the present participle helps form the 6 progressive tenses in the English language. What are the 6 progressive tenses? First, we have the past progressive. Second, present progressive. Third, future progressive. Fourth, past perfect progressive. Fifth, present perfect progressive. And finally, we have future perfect progressive. Do you still remember each of these tenses? If not, here's for you. The past progressive has this form: was or were plus the ing form of the verb. Meaning to say, it's just simply as adding was or were to the present participle. For the word travel, the past progressive tense is was or were traveling. The present progressive tense of the word travel is formed by adding is or are before traveling. So, present progressive tense of the word travel is traveling or are traveling. For the future progressive, we follow this form: will or shall plus be plus the ing form of the verb. So for the word travel, we have will be traveling or shall be traveling. But then again, will is more common. The past perfect progressive has this form: had plus been plus the ing form of the verb. So, for the word travel, the past perfect progressive tense is had been traveling. Now the present perfect progressive tense. The present perfect progressive tense has this form: has or have plus been plus the ing form. So, for the word travel, the present perfect progressive tense is has been traveling or have been traveling. Finally, the future perfect progressive tense. It has the form will plus have plus been plus the ing form. So for the word travel, it is will have been traveling. Alright, now the third principal part of verb. The third principal part of verb is the past. The past makes the past tenses. To form the past tense of verbs, we simply have to add "t" or "et" to the base verb. But that only applies again to regular verbs, like the word travel. Travel is a regular verb. So travel's past tense is traveled. Okay, now if the base verb ends in a consonant, we simply have to add "ed." But if it ends in a vowel, we add "d." How about the irregular verbs, like the word teach? Teach in the past tense becomes taught. Set becomes set. It's still the same. So, what's the rule on forming past tenses of irregular verbs? Answer is none. So, for irregular verbs, you have to familiarize and memorize them, because some of them change the base verb spelling or not at all. It's just the same, just like the word set. Okay, is that clear? The fourth principal part of verb is the past participle. The past participle helps form the three perfect tenses. The past participle is formed by adding "d" or "ed" to the base verb. But that's only applicable to regular verbs, just like the past tense. For example, the verb travel. Travel becomes traveled. How about irregular verbs? Irregular verbs like teach becomes taught. Sat is still sat. Rise becomes risen. So for irregular verbs, we simply have to familiarize and memorize them. Some of these verbs change the base verb spelling or they retain them. The fourth principal part of verb again makes the three perfect tenses. The three perfect tenses in the English language are past perfect, present perfect, and future perfect. The past perfect tense has this form: had plus the past participle. So for the verb travel, the past perfect tense is had traveled. Its present perfect form has or have plus past participle, making it has traveled or have traveled. The future perfect tense has this form: will plus have plus the past participle. For the verb travel, the future perfect tense is will have traveled. Okay, now let's have the summary of the four principal parts. The four principal parts of verbs again are present, present participle, past, and past participle. The present principal part helps form the present and future tenses. Present participle helps form the 6 progressive tenses. Past makes the past tenses, and past participle 3 perfect tenses. Now let's do this exercise. Are you ready? Okay, now in this exercise, you have to give the missing verb. You have to give the missing principal part. We have walked, paid, cost, cook, chosen, received, flew, driving, broke, and coming. Okay, if you need time to answer, just pause this part. Let's begin. Let's check your present of walked is walk. Present participle is walking. And past participle is walked. Alright, next we have the past participle paid. Its present principal part is pay. Present participle is paying. Past is still paid. Next, we have the present cost. Cost, present participle is costing. Past is cost. And past participle is still cost. Cost is an irregular verb and it has the same form in the past, past participle, and present. Next, we have the present principal part, cook. Cook in the present participle is cooking. Past is cooked. And past participle is still cooked. Next, chosen. Chosen is from the verb choose. So present principal part of the verb chosen is choose. Its present participle is choosing. Past, chose. It's chose and not chose or choosed because choose is an irregular verb. It changes spelling. Again, choose, choosing, chose, and chosen. Next, we have the verb received. Received in the present, okay, or its present principal part is receive. Present participle is receiving and past participle is still received. This is a regular verb. Next, we have the past participle flew. Flew in the present is fly. Present participle is flying and past participle is flow. Flew or fly is an irregular verb. It changes spelling. Again, fly, flying, flew, flowed. Next, we have the present participle driving. The present principal part is drive. Past is drove and not drived. Drive is an irregular verb. Its past participle is driven, just like the verb risen earlier. Okay, again, drive, driving, drove, driven. Next, broke. Present is break. Present participle is breaking. And past participle is broken. It follows the same form as drive. Broken is another irregular verb. Break, breaking, broke, broken. Lastly, we have the verb coming. The present principal part of the verb coming is come. Past is came and past participle is come. Come is another irregular verb. Come, coming, came, come. Thank you guys for watching today's video. I hope you learned something. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe for updates. See you again next